Workers' World series focuses on the world of work and issues relevant to all workers, from the struggle for a living wage to a safe public transport to solidarity with workers of the world. This week, a special program, the latest of the work of International Transport Workers Federation, Seafarers and Dockers sections held in Cape Town. An in-depth analysis and debate by studio panelists coming to you from Salt River Studios. Workers' World starts right now.
From England to Poland, every step across the ocean, the ruling classes, them is in a mess. Oh yes, the capitalist system and regress, but the Soviet system.
Welcome to the weekly labor show here on CTV. The International Transport Workers Federation, ITF, is meeting in Cape Town this week. The ITF is hosting the union representatives from unions all over the world in the docking and seafaring sectors to discuss development and their concerns relating the workers' condition of employment. In effect, they represent 16.5 million globally and 1.5 million workers from 148 countries belonging to the ITF. The ITF is a union that can literally bring the world economy to a standstill. So when they meet, it's serious business. Stay with us and hear more. Hello, my name is Ayanda Nabe, and in the studio with me I have Torben Siebel, the National Secretary for Dockers and Seafarers Verdi Germany, the Vice Chairperson of the ITF Dockers section. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Proud to be here.
We're happy to have you. Lina Daring, ITF Seafarers Section Women's Representative, Norwegian Seafarers Union. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
And we have Strawn Mandal, who is a maritime lawyer based in Durban. You're welcome.
Thanks, Yanda.
Before we move on to our most exciting discussions of the night, we watch this short insert prepared for us by the Workers' World Media Productions team.
Hi, we're here at the first ever ITF Maritime Cabotage Conference in Cape Town. I have the Vice Chair of the Cabotage Task Force with me, Johnny Hansen. Johnny, tell us, why did we need a conference specifically about cabotage?
Well, cabotage has been discussed in the different bodies in ITF over many years. And after the Fair Practice Committee meeting in Perth a couple of years ago, there was a task force established. And we clearly see that this is a topic that is very important for the ITF affiliates around the world. And in order to involve more than the task force in the discussion, we found that we should have a conference like this, and the turnout was really good, and the involvement from the floor was excellent today. So that's why we ended up here.
And there's been lots of discussion about trade agreements. For a layman who doesn't know loads about the technicalities, what's the link?
Well, the link is that in those trade agreements, some want to take away any protection for the cabotage, maritime cabotage. That should not be part, should be eliminated. And most of those trade agreements are discussed without the involvement of the trade union movement. So that's why it is a big concern. And I think ITF and especially the maritime sector of ITF should be aware of the possibility that such trade agreements, regional, international, could take away the cabotage regulations that are in place, and that will be a disaster for seafarers around the world.
Thank you. Gemma Walker reporting from the ITF Maritime Cabotage Conference.
And if you've just joined us for tonight, welcome to our show. We are discussing issues pertaining to the International Transport Workers Federation and their meeting that was held in Cape Town. The first question I'd like to get from you is briefly explain to us what the ITF is and how the members are constituted.
As you said in your opening remarks, we are representing more than 16.5 million workers in all transport modes, 148 countries. So we are a strong, a dynamic, and a united global union family. Our strength lies in organizing and campaigning. And by doing that, we are influencing key players in the maritime industry. We are influencing institutions as well as governments. But most importantly, we are giving the global workforce their voice in order to fight back on the attacks on workers, which is not going to happen with the International Transport Workers Federation.
So did I hear correctly, you said in all transport sectors, does that include rail?
Of course,
land?
of course.
That's very interesting. So Lena, I know you're working with women's issues and the gender programs.
I sure do, yeah.
When they talk about membership, it seems that's a broad number that they give us. And can you tell us the exact number of the women?
Well, I work for seafarers, only so I can tell you a little bit about what the membership there is. And we hear it varies, but we would say that, so we don't know exactly the number. On passenger ships, so cruise ships, ferries, things like that, the percentage of women is something, I don't know, somewhere between 20 to 25%. Whereas in other types of shipping, like cargo ships and things like that, it's only maybe 1 to 2%. So obviously we're very vulnerable.
And tell me this 1 to 2% and this 20 to 30%, what position do they hold? Senior technical positions?
Some women do, but unfortunately the majority of women, they hold lower type positions, and also many of them work in catering and hotel type positions.
It just seems you have a lot of work to do.
We sure do. We have a lot of work to do.
Well, talking about the legal issues, Strawn, we've heard on a number of occasions how the foreign ships have docked our oceans, sometimes abandon their ships, sometimes we hear about illegal fishing. What is your role? I'm trying to establish, what does a lawyer in this industry do?
Well, my role there is mostly to assist the inspectors, the ITF inspectors that go on board. They visit almost all the ships that call in South African harbours, and they will assist seafarers with any difficulties that they will have. Many times the ITF inspector will resolve that difficulty himself without involving an attorney, but sometimes, usually when it involves non-payment of wages, then they may need legal advice, and that's when I'll step in and assist the seafarers and through the inspector to recover their wages for them. And South Africa is a very helpful legal jurisdiction to do that.
I'm proud to be a South African when you say that.
Yep.
You've had a conference this week, am I correct? So what was this all about?
Well, we come together this week with the dockers and seafarers that are all organized in their sections. So this week we are setting our priorities. We are looking after the challenges and we are discussing our proper answers. So it's mainly about setting our work program, evaluating where we are, and concentrating on the future challenges.
Straught, I know when you spoke that you mentioned the fact that you help the workers, in fact, with the accessing the legal service.
Yes.
What are some of the popular cases that you've gone through?
Well, the vast majority of cases are for unpaid wages. So you may know that seafarers are particularly vulnerable to exploitation. They usually come from countries where there is an oversupply of labor. Jobs, particularly on foreign-going ships, are very hard to get and are very valued. So seafarers will wait a long time before they complain, before they take steps to enforce their rights for payment. And ship owners know that. So if a ship owner is facing financial difficulties, the first person he doesn't pay is his crew. So it's not unusual to find a crew on board a vessel with wages outstanding for 3, 4, 5 months at a time before they will do anything. So when they finally get to the stage where they're ready to take action, they're in a very bad place. They don't trust anyone. They're in a foreign country. They don't speak the language. They don't understand the procedures. They don't understand their rights to to the courts. And that's where the ITF inspector steps in. The ITF is a name that every seafarer in the world knows they can trust. And so we're in that place of suspicion of where they are, of all the structures where they are. The ITF will assist them. And so the vast majority of my cases are for unpaid wages. We will arrest the ship and claim the wages. If the owners still don't pay, we will sell the ship and pay the seafarers and repatriate them. And South Africa is a very effective jurisdiction for doing that. We can sell a ship within about 2 months, perhaps slightly longer, pay the crew and send them home with their wages. So it's a very effective jurisdiction for those sorts of claims.
You know, Lena, I've got a very interesting question in my mind, and that's especially because women are vulnerable in terms of numbers in particular. So what are some of the cases that you have to deal with or that you're aware of?
For women,
for women in particular?
First, of course, they deal with a lot of the same types of problems as men deal with, like he was just describing. But in addition to that, women are extra vulnerable to harassment and bullying on board, I would say.
Harassment?
Yeah, it could be harassment, bullying, sexual harassment, and worst case, even sexual assault and things like that. So to which, of course, women are a lot more vulnerable. And especially if there's only one woman on the vessel, maybe, and maybe it's the supervisor, or maybe, the captain on the ship, maybe that person is the perpetrator, then that person is in an extremely vulnerable position. So there's a lot of challenges out there for women seafarers.
So when we come back from the commercial break, I would like to hear what the union is doing for women. Yes. So we'll go on a commercial break, and at home, stay tuned. And please remember to send us those text messages and WhatsApp messages, and our number is 081-552-4551. And of course, if you're out of the country, it's +27 81-552 4551. Well, if you've just joined us, welcome to our show. And of course, we are talking about the ITF, that conference that we've had. And with me in the studio to discuss is the panelists. So before we went on the break, my interest and a question that I posed to you as the secretary of the union was, what is the union doing for women? Particularly, I'm looking at policies and programs, and how you hold accountable those that are not adhering to those policies and programs.
Did you want me to step in, or do you?
You can both join,
Yeah.
but
Right.
I would also love to hear from the secretary.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, the last 5 days, as I said before, we were prioritizing our work, and one of the main priority is to work for equality in workplaces for hard-working women. And this is a very, very big challenge, because not every woman got the same equal access to the jobs. They are not getting paid the same salary. They are struggling with bullying and harassment, as Lena has just pointed out. So we are working on different levels to ensure equality for women in the transport sector. For instance, at ILO level, we are working hard together with our international comrades on conventions to end the violence against women in workplaces. This is one of the big successes we just reached at ILO level. And we want everyone to understand that the ITF is taking up any kind of steps to give female workers, female dock workers, female seafarers a voice, and this is one of our main priorities. It's easy to say, but it's hard to achieve.
Giving them a voice, Lina.
Yes.
There's comfort in numbers.
Yes.
So what's your program, or what's the strategy to address that?
Yeah, no, we need to promote female or women's employment at sea in particular, because, as you say, there's power in numbers, and it's actually even shown that the working conditions for both men and women, they get better as you have a more equal gender balance in the workplace. So it's not only a women's issue, it actually gets better for men too when you have a good mix. So we need to promote to have more women working at sea, and that for more women to work at sea, they need to feel comfortable doing that. We need to have, robust collective bargaining agreements in place that give them rights, to give them some kind of work-life balance, to give them, to feel that they are safe to go out there to work at sea.
Are you in any way planning to ring fence any of these positions to make sure that you bring on board more women? Because the biggest challenge that I seem to have is when organizations says we want women, and yet they make no effort to get these women.
Yeah.
So organization must really go out there and find these women, get these women. It's an obligation upon the organization itself, not just on you as the official working with the program. So what are you planning to do? What is the strategy? I would really like to hear about that.
Yeah.
the efforts that the organization is ready to put out there to get these women back in here?
Right now we're looking at strategies and ways where we connect women graduates from, female graduates from maritime colleges, because in some places at least they have problems getting good employment once they graduate, despite having great, results from their school. So we're looking at, connecting them with good employers and to make sure that they do get their careers started. So we're looking to first of all, connect them, to get them out there in the workplace. And then secondly, of course, we need to look at the women who have been successful to see what helped them get out there and see how we can replicate that in other companies as well. And then, of course, in the companies that are not willing to, employ women, we need to put pressure on them in order to do so. But it's a very diverse cultural environment as well, because we deal with every country in the world basically. So,
yes, yeah. And again, coming back to you, Stuart, the issue about legal issues again is do countries actually own their ports? We see a lot of foreign vessels, and we're not even sure. I have to admit, I'm one of those people that have been very ignorant about the sector. And when I heard that you guys are here in Cape Town, I thought I need to read up about this sector and about these people that are here. But I'm still interested, do we even own our ports? And oftentimes we hear that, this country has a dry port. What does all of that even mean to us? And how does that even benefit the citizen, the ordinary worker?
Yeah, I think that's at a higher level than my involvement, Ayanda. I'm pleased to say that doesn't affect my work. We can arrest wherever the ship is, we can take action against it. But you're right, there's a lot of decision making and divesting interests like that all over the world, right or wrong. Unfortunately, it's not really my involvement.
Yes, please.
Well, this is one of our main priorities as well. So we are trying to influence key players, global network terminal operators that are entering the countries. They are using the public infrastructure, which is paid by taxpayers' money, and then they are using these facilities to maximize their profits. So like global corporations like DP World or APMT or Hutchison, they are using now automation in privatized ports as a union busting element. And we have to take up all kind of actions to work on job security for our members, and we are doing that with strong collective bargaining. We are doing that with a lead of the public discussion, how automation is being used against unions, against hardworking men and women in the ports. And in the end, we have to say that currently the case of automation is even more difficult, because in times of overcapacity ashore, but also overcapacity, overtonnage on the vessels, so on the seaside, the proportion and the relation between revenues and expenditures for the terminal operators is getting closer and closer. And so why are they going for automation when it's not profitable? And they are just easily use it as a union busting element. And this is something where we have to find answers, and we are trying to work on a global level with these global network terminal operators to create a framework for high-level standards on occupational health and safety, on job security, but also on the promotion of women in the business. And yeah, in the end, we have to be as effective as possible. We have to reduce the working time to give less manual, to give more people less manual jobs. This
of course. And that's something I really want to come back to. Yeah. But first we move to a commercial break. And at home, remember, we're waiting for those WhatsApp messages and those text messages. Our number is 081-552-4551 plus 2781-552-4551. Stay with us. Well, if you've just joined us, we welcome you to the show. Very interesting show. And I have to admit, it's a show that I thought I would never host, because I thought, anything that has to do with the ocean is way above my level. So I'm hoping for the person at home, you're really getting what you need from the show. And of course, before we went on the break, we spoke about the jobs that would be there. And there was an indication that, you know, it's highly technical, you know, you are told education level seems to be very high. We have to acknowledge that for the different countries, we have different cultures, different education levels. So how do you balance that? If I'm an ordinary South African who lives in the township, listening to this show, I really want a job. I'm really interested in this industry. What type of job are there for me?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm going to admit I don't know so much about the South African job opportunities, of course, but seafarers come from all over the world, literally. I think it must be one of the most diverse types of jobs out there. There are so many people from so many different cultures. So,
but what I'm trying to establish is that the education level here might not be the same as the education level in Norway where you come from. So would I have a job if I have just my matric, which would be equivalent to what, Stuart? Can you help us? Stroke?
High school, maybe?
Yeah,
high school, yes.
Yeah.
What type of jobs are there? Because there's a constant fear that this industry is probably so highly mechanized, you know, and you have to be very educated because it's computerized. At least that's what we see on TV. So what do I need? I mean, how can I get into this industry and grow in this industry?
Yeah. Well, there are all types of jobs at sea as well. There are not only these very high-skilled technical type jobs, although those are, of course, maybe the best paid ones. So, but there are other lower entry points as well that are not so daunting. So, but they may be more on the catering side than on hotel type positions, which maybe could be a good starting point as well for a great career at sea. So I don't want to dismiss that at all, but it's a great start. It could be a great starting point for sure. Yeah.
So the one other thing that I'm really interested in is the health and safety aspect. How are we faring, Strud?
I think our track record there is quite good. Our South African Maritime Safety Authority, SAMSA, they're responsible for monitoring safety levels in the port and on ships. They respond to any complaints. They enforce a very high level of safety. And I think our track record is good there. They respond to maritime disasters very promptly, very efficiently. Their routine checks, routine inspections in the harbours are at a good level. I think we have a good track record there.
Stuart, Tobin, do you have any concerns at all with regards to health and safety?
Yeah, absolutely. We just reached a very tremendously success at ILO level. An ITF delegation fought hard to get the ILO Code of Practice on occupational health and safety for ports in place. And we reached a consensus with the employer side and with the governments. And by that, the ILO Code of Practice are setting the standards for all workplaces in the ports. So they are creating a safe working place, and the governments have to adopt and ratify. So we call on all governments to sign up to that convention in order to create safe working places here in South Africa, but also North America, also in Europe, also in Asia. And this is why we need strong international conventions at IMO level, at ILO level, like for instance the seafarer have reached a tremendous outcome out of the negotiations on IMO level. So we have now the Maritime Labour Convention in place, which is very important for the seafarers. So the ITF stresses the importance of ILO and IMO. We have to use it as an effective tool to create safe working places.
Can women say the same? Say we feel safe, other than the fact that in their numbers they're not very comfortable, but generally other tasks, and they say I feel very safe in this industry as a woman. I'm proud to be here.
Of course, I would like to say that all women in the industry say that. Unfortunately, that may not be the truth, although many women do have great jobs and great careers at sea. I don't want to paint it too dark picture. But there are still health and well-being issues there that face both men and women. There, for instance, I mentioned harassment and things like that already, but you also have things like fatigue. If people have extreme long working hours, of course, due to pressure from employers to cut costs, so they have people working extreme hours. And then, of course, as you do work too much, you don't get enough rest. You start to make mistakes and you can get injured, you can get sick, you can get depressed. You can feel isolated. You can have all these things that can affect your health, and they affect both men and women. Yeah.
Strawn, have you had any cases that relate to health and safety
We
that
do-
you were not able to resolve? I know you've been speaking fairly nicely about these things.
I think particular to the South African situation, issues like that are resolved quite well because we have SAMHSA is very effective. If there are shortcomings on a ship, particularly for safety issues, they will detain the ship until it's resolved. So they enforce those standards very efficiently here.
Okay.
I'm sure it's not the same everywhere in the world, but we're quite fortunate here.
I get that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I have to thank you for being part of our show. And we hope to host you again very soon. And I have to thank you again for choosing to be on a community television station because it reaches out to the poor people of this country. And if you're at home watching the show and you have any labor-related problems, please visit the Department of Labor Centers or join a union. And remember, we at Workers World believe that a working class united will never be defeated. Good night.
From the east to the west, to the land I love the best. The ruling classes, them is in a mess. Oh yes, crisis is the order of the day. The workers, them demanding more pay every day. The peasants want a lot more say nowadays.